So this year's annual conference is nested in the midst of the EVPA Impact Month. Impact Month that we have kicked off last week in The Hague in the context of the Impact Fest with a community of 50 impact funds that have come together to discuss about the challenges of fundraising for impact in this context and how to manage the everyday trade-offs between impact and financial sustainability. So yesterday, for those of you that could join, we had our corporate social investing crash course. And today is the day of the annual conference, the day in which we expand the lens on our full community, including institutions, foundations, market builders, enterprises. So the full power of the spectrum of capital that comes together under the EVPA umbrella. And today we're going to talk about what is the key challenges that we are facing as a community. So how do we mobilize resources at such a critical time emerging from a pandemic? How do we connect and collaborate and engage and bring capital together to really drive change, to transform our society and to address those inequalities that have emerged so starkly during the pandemic? And as you've seen from the program, we have a very exciting one-day full program that gravitates around these three streams of mobilizing resources, connecting and driving change. But that's not it. Next week, we are going to regroup in Porto in person for the first time after 2 years with a small group of investors for impact and corporate social investors to really mobilize and to talk as a community on what is our call to action. How do we want to come together and truly be a transformative force in society? But let's go back to today and let's all engage in this dialogue around the Impact Month. For those of you that have been active on social media, please continue being so. Hashtag Impact Month is the tagline you should use. The more we share the conversation with the external world, the more visibility and the more energy we create in the impact space. And in Europe, we have a key partner in this recovery and transformation. So European institutions have traditionally been a key partner of EVPA in engaging and creating an enabling policy environment and a key funders for the social economy. Today, we invited the Director General for DG GROW, the Directorate for Internal Market, Industry, Enterprises, and Social and Medium Enterprises, to share their perspective on how the Commission is also changing the paradigm and how the Commission is changing the way they look at the ecosystem and they partner across the ecosystem. We wanted to hear from a directorate that is focused mainly on industry and growth, on how it's dealing with another specific part of our ecosystem, the philanthropic organization. Unfortunately, Ms. Yorna couldn't be with us today, but she sent a recorded message. And so let's listen to it together and we'll regroup in a few minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me again at the European Venture Philanthropy Association Annual Conference. Philanthropy and societal engagement have a long tradition in Europe. The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the vulnerabilities of individuals, societies, and economies. It calls for a rethink of the way our economy and our societies are organized. One message I see coming out very clearly of this experience: we need more responses based on solidarity and on cooperation. This is why we must unleash your full potential. We must unleash your full potential. Besides funding and investments, your organizations combine an outstanding set of expertise and stakeholder networks to leverage. The old split between business as just making profit and governments as fixing problems, where social progress was best achieved through charity and grant-based instruments, this old split is ending. In fact, we have a new context today where philanthropic organizations have a key role to play. I'm very well aware of this shift of paradigm. I see the need for policies at all levels, recognizing philanthropic organizations as drivers of innovative approaches to solve key social issues in Europe, from housing deprivation and homelessness to migration and inclusion of vulnerable groups, to environmental solutions for the green transition. Social-oriented finance and impact investments are the new paradigm, as they enable to support and harness the power of business and entrepreneurship to tackle social challenges. I'm happy that your association is taking a leading role together with Social Economy Europe in shaping a large-scale skills partnership for the proximity and social economy ecosystem, and also in the implementation of the EU Pact for Skills. Thank you for your commitment. Before concluding, I want to mention another important step in this process: the forthcoming European Action Plan on Social Economy, which is scheduled still for adoption this year. The action plan will be accompanied by a transition pathway, which aims at accelerating the green and digital transition. As you remember, the annual Single Market Report 2021 identified 14 industrial ecosystems crucial for recovery, and the proximity and social economy ecosystem is one of the 14. On this basis, on the 14, the Commission proposes transition pathways to co-create with stakeholders as an essential collaborative tool for the transformation of the industrial ecosystems. Such pathways will offer a bottom-up understanding about the areas, scale, cost, long-term benefits and conditions of the required actions to accompany the twin green and digital transition in the particular ecosystems. It will lead to an actionable plan and predictability for investment decisions as well, in favor of sustainable competitiveness. I count on you all to present your vision on the future of this ecosystem and get involved under the form of commitments and joint actions. I wish you fruitful discussions. Thank you.
So, very rich message from Miss Jorna, and lots of input. I mean, my takeaway and what I would like to kind of highlight is the recognition of this shift in paradigm, right? So the recognition that the world is converging towards the center of the spectrum, towards impact, and the division between business for profit and philanthropic organization doing good doesn't really apply anymore. So collaboration and integration for sustainability is key. The second is a recognition of our social investors for impact community as a driver of innovation. We've been discussing for a few years the concept of intentionality and additionality and the true force of innovative solution for social impact that our investors bring to the market and build the market for. So there is clearly an acknowledgement from a policymaker and European institution of this role that we can play, and we can work more on this today. And last but not least, there is a teaser into the social economy action plan coming out in December, and a call for action to engage and to collaborate into the co-design. So breaking the approach of top-down policy that gets rolled out, but more inviting civil society, philanthropy organization, impact fund to join the transition roadmap and to really help shape it for a just transition and for a more inclusive future. So very rich message from Miss Yorna that I hope it stays a little bit in the back of your mind as you go through the day and you listen to the different perspective that we will bring out through the day. But now I want to shift the focus onto another key stakeholder into our ecosystem, the true hero of the and the true implementer of impact into the investing for impact space, that are the social enterprises. Today with us, I'm very honored to welcome Valeria Valotto from Progetto Quid. For those of you that don't know Progetto Quid is an award-winning social enterprise that is trying to transform the value chain of fashion to truly have an impact and tackle climate change and employment inequalities. Valeria, good morning and welcome to the annual conference of EVPA. You want to say more about yourself and what brought you to Progetto Quid in the first place?
Good morning, Roberta, and good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for having us here. It's a honor on behalf of my 149 colleagues. I was kidnapped by Quid at a very young age when I still didn't know anything about social entrepreneurship and fundraising, which is effectively my role in the organization. But I absolutely fell in love with the mission, which was back then, as it is now, to redesign the labor market in favor of women who are discriminated against in the Italian job market for sure, and now more so after the pandemic. Quid was born in 2014, and for our generation, the job market was tough, completely different from how our parents had depicted it to us. And we wanted to make the difference for those who were more at risk of labor margination, for sure, regardless of their age. It was mostly senior employees back then after the 2008 and 2011 crisis, but also for ourselves, because we needed meaningful jobs for ourselves. It was absolutely crucial to know that we could have an impact through what we had studied, and we could really invest our talents in making our country and our communities a better place for everyone, and especially for women, being a women-led social enterprise. So that's what brought me to Quid. I'm still here.
Yeah. You're still here and you're still very successful. I mean, you should be all very proud of what you've achieved over in such a short period of time, right? It's in 7 years. But I imagine that the impact of the pandemic has not been kind on an enterprise, right?
Right. We are based in Verona, which is, of course, northern Italy, one of the hotspots back in 2020. And yes, so it's been a journey, which I'm here to tell you about.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we are all excited to hear more about it, and also to see in action how the resilience and the passion that you just also hinted to have helped the organization turn what could have been a catastrophic situation into an opportunity. So Valeria, the floor is yours, and I'll come back to wrap up in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Roberta. So good morning, everyone. As Roberta has already introduced Quid, just a few words about the organization. Quid is a women-led social enterprise based in Italy and a fashion brand on a mission. Since 2014, we repurpose end-of-line fabric available in large quantity in Italy and transform it into limited edition fashion collections. Through fashion, we don't offer just jobs, but career opportunities to women who have a distance to the labor market. We proudly distribute our designs and collections B2C in a network of 10 flagship stores, which we run independently, and another 50 multi-brand stores across the peninsula. And B2B, in collaboration with brands we are ethical supplier for, from IKEA to Zalando. Today, we are 150 and counting, aged 19 to 65, representing 22 nationalities and countries and many more languages, training and working across several departments, from sales to marketing, from sewing to quality control, from packaging to logistics to pattern making. 87% of us are women. Our mission, as hinted before, is to redesign fashion to change the world. How? We do so, like many other social entrepreneurs, by turning limits into starting points. In our case, where the fashion supply chain ends, that's where our collections take life. And where the labor market overlooks talent, that's where we start cultivating it. We believe that transforming limits into starting points is the nectar of social entrepreneurship. As social entrepreneurs, we respond to societal problems by developing business, growth, and empowerment opportunities. From deserts to metropoles, we are experts in making challenges flourish. So, what does a social entrepreneur do when life gives them a pandemic? Well, they transform it into an opportunity to learn, to develop, to evolve, and to connect. In March 2020, we found ourselves amidst one of the world's largest COVID hotspots, northern Italy. In Verona, halfway between Venice and Milan, like in the rest of the peninsula, stores had to close, factories had to be stopped, and activity, normal life, to be halted. People stuck inside, singing from balconies and making appointments to line for the grocery shopping together, so as not to miss the human touch. Unavoidably, we saw B2C sales plummet for a loss of over 700,000 euro. But we feared for B2B sales too, as we saw our clients and partners and customers on that channel succumb to fear. And those who had always offered guidance failing to do so, because there was so much of unknown ahead of us. But above everything, we feared for our colleagues and for ourselves. Nobody was ready to let go of the meaningful employment opportunities we had built for ourselves, from the most vulnerable of colleagues to the most senior one of 150. That miracle of collaboration, inclusion, integration, creativity, and innovation that only workplaces like Quid can foster could not be swept away. It was both our life and our livelihood. We knew we had a few months' cash flow to rely on, but time was ticking. So you have to imagine somewhere in a pattern-making unit in Verona's leafy suburbs, in the chilly and sunny Italian spring, one that we only witnessed by the window, 10 women working relentlessly, night and day. Our pattern makers. They were working to develop a face mask, which was much needed back then. Almost a luxury item at some point. But not just that. We were aiming to develop a reusable, fully certified mask, one that could be gentle on people and on the environment. And we succeeded. That's how Cover, our reusable, rewashable face mask, was born. And it was one of the first washable, fully certified face masks to be distributed in the country and EU-wide. Turn upside a mask and it will look like a parachute. And that's exactly what it became to us. Thanks to Cover, we were able to reopen the factory just in time to train staff to complex health and safety standard procedures, and to start producing masks at the most hectic pace we've ever experienced. The first batch was welcomed with an applause, and you could tell from the eyes, that the only visible part of our body, that we were smiling underneath the mask. We'd made it. We produced and distributed over 1 million masks, saving 15 million disposable masks for a 2.5 million turnover. With our e-commerce turnover and traffic increased by 300% in 2 weeks, and a swift digital transformation, which for a small SME was equaling a small earthquake amidst the pandemic. All of our 150 employees kept their job. And to support them, we activated emergency support as part of our welfare program. 143 employees were supported with paperwork procedures linked to the emergency, from babysitting bonuses to food stamps, because 25% of our vulnerable workforce became the main breadwinners for their households during one of the darkest moments of our country's histories. And not just that. As the demand for masks was increasing, we joined forces with other workshops, small and large, across the country, giving life to a production hub covering 3 regions. 24 companies were kept afloat, profit and non-profit, for-profit and not-for-profit companies, and over 300 employees, in addition to our employees, were granted stable employment during one of the worst economic crises of 21st century Italy. But if I stopped here, I would have told you only half of the story. So let me tell you the other half of it. And the other half of our success, which is our network. None of this would have been possible without the support, financial, in-kind, expertise-based, of our stakeholders, partners, and investors. A former customer, a fashion company that also retooled in the course of the pandemic, mentored us throughout the conversion process. Our investors granted emotional and practical support, encouragement when we most needed it, and made sure eventually that we did have capital to face the technical investments needed to afford expensive and complex certifications. Our in-kind donors, those companies who supply us with silk, velvet, and wool, were making sure we receive plain cotton instead of luxury fabric back then. And our B2B clients were ordering masks instead of merchandising, making sure word of mouth would spread faster than the virus. We had made it together. We've made it together. And if the pandemic showed us that we are connected for worse, we showed the pandemic that we can be connected for better. And that's the message I want to leave with you. Because our lives as social companies, social entrepreneurs, our lives as investors, as decision makers and game changers will be punctuated by infinite crises, shocks, unexpected, unforeseeable circumstances. But our mission as actors in the social entrepreneurship sphere is to turn those challenges into opportunities, and to do so by means of collaboration, empathy, and connection. So united in our uniqueness, in our diversity of approaches, of attitude, of mission, of means, that's how we have the privilege to rebuild and recover our communities and our continent. Alone, we are nothing. We're just disassembled pieces. But together, we've got all we need. And that's everything we need in such challenging, transformative times. So let's commit to connect for the better then.
Valeria, what an inspiring story and an inspiring kind of result as well. So thank you very much for sharing it with us, for the candor, and also for, we could feel the emotional, how tough must have been emotionally for you and the team, right? I'm interested to see, if you had to say what made it happen, I mean, this is a very successful story in a context where other enterprises didn't have the same resilience and energy to turn it around. They didn't have the same support across the network. What made Quid special, do you think? What helped?
I think in this specific case, it was a number of fortunate events too, because we work in a sector that was effectively retooling for the face mask production. So the textile industry in this case was able to retool, and we have former clients and former customers, B2B clients, who had somehow pioneered the retooling and the reconversion. And they were happy to mentor us without being scared of being somehow overtaken by us. But it eventually did happen because we managed to have the mask certified, which was extremely difficult. And so I believe that the fact that we were in the fashion industry, which now it's of course one of the weakest in the eye of the pandemic, right? So it's highly affected because of course consumer goods have been affected, and especially the manufacturing and fashion industry. But the face masks back then were much needed, and we had the machinery. We had the expertise in terms of fabric, and the fact that we recover fabric means that we have a network of almost 50 fabric suppliers who were all happy and somehow had already converted to producing masks. So I guess it was a number of fortunate events. I don't think we are better than any.
No, I think as you
the
say,
resilience as a social entrepreneur, you're faced. You work mostly on the spur of emergencies. So, yeah, pandemic was in a way just another emergency, a big one.
and an accelerator, right? You spoke about the digital transformation. Digital transformation has been in the air for a few years. The amazing acceleration created by the pandemic. I mean, it's probably one of the very few positive side effects of this time.
Yeah. It was, well, we could only distribute online, from mid-March 2020 till the end of June. That was the only channel that we had to keep in touch with our B2B clients and at the same time to distribute the product. So it was a swift digitalization on which weighted heavily on a small marketing team. And we were distributing all of the face masks we distributed. So I would say that 1 million of the face masks were distributed online. So it was absolutely crazy, also in terms of investment in new staff, resources, training, and also communication changed. So we had to be the online communication, social media had to become much warmer, much more personable. We started filming our sales director we produced videos in her living room to launch the collection. So it was all very exciting. It was both scary and exciting.
I can imagine. And one question, first of all, is amazing to see how really the concept that EVPA's community has been talking about, the financial and non-financial support, the engagement and the collaboration, is great to hear an example that shows that in action. But now looking forward, Valeria, my question is, how is Quid building on this amazing innovation and transformation of the business model to start a new phase? Because as you said, right, the peak of the pandemic, the masks were what saved the day and became a little bit of a catalyst. What are the plans going forward to make sure that you don't go back to where you were before, but you actually continue building on the transformation of the business model?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think it's one that we should ask ourselves more after the pandemic. Because yes, I mentioned that the mask was a small parachute for us, but it made us land on a
new planet,
unknown, uncharted territory.
Yes.
So what are we going to do now?
Yes.
The average spend in the stores has, of course, decreased. So we know that consumers are looking for something different compared to what they were looking earlier. So less financial ability, smaller financial availability, less, and also stronger drive for ethical purchases at the same time. So in terms of design, we are going back to very basic design. So I can tell you in advance, the next collections are going to be very basic in order to keep also the price range affordable. That's very important for us, that we are ethical fashion and affordable at the same time, which is not always the case. And in terms of B2B customers, it's been really interesting because with the masks, thanks to the mask, we were able to approach new companies and new partners. And now they've happily reconverted to B2B clients. Almost, I would say, 45% of the new acquired clients have reconverted to, clients to whom we sell merchandising. And but with a strong interest in B2B solidarity sourcing contracts. So we see that this trend is increasing as well. This is, talking about the two channels, but at the same time, in terms of digital drive, that's absolutely the case. So we are investing a lot on digital strategy, e-commerce. We are strengthening the e-commerce platform, which is not always easy in our case because we distribute. So we work with a limited quantity of fabric. So collections are limited edition, which requires a completely different structure of platform because we run out very quickly of the designs.
Listen, it sounds like you are already kind of building on these trends and thinking forward. And I really hope that also the support that you got from the network and the engagement continues, because that is an amazing legacy and is an amazing support. So I want to thank you again.
I want to add something, Roberta.
Go,
you mentioned the in-kind support, besides financial support. It's I was forgetting something, but we are we've had the opportunity to receive mentoring throughout the first 6 months out of the pandemic, and it's been a journey. It's been really useful. And this is mentoring from CEOs from for-profit companies. So SNAM, the Calcedonia Group, have been mentoring us, and it's a very interesting experience in terms of hybrid approach.
Yes.
And then let's not forget that our business model relies on in-kind donations of excess fabric. So in that respect, yes.
Yes. No, absolutely. But you see, that's exactly what the beauty of the current momentum and this space is really the opportunity to bring complementary expertise and invest into, I think when we talk about just transition or recovery and transformation, I think this is what you're saying, the recognition you're giving to your partner is a demonstration that nobody can do it on their own. And it's great, and which should really showcase more example like that, and encourage this exchange, because sometimes it's not about money, but it's about the expertise and the capacity that you can build. So thank you. Thanks very much, Valeria. I look forward to staying in touch. Good luck on your next phase. Next time I come to Verona, I'll come and maybe visit the factory for sure.
Absolutely. We have, we have open factory days, and we are more than happy to welcome anyone. So even from the audience, come and visit, drop us a line.
Great. Please take Valeria up. She's a is a role model. Thank you. Thanks, Valeria.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for having us here. Bye.
Yes. Bye. Wonderful. So what an inspiring story, and demonstrating truly in action all the elements, the kind of long-term perspective on impact and the resilience, the in-kind financial support of investors and philanthropists that are truly committed to transformation and innovation, and the resilience and the passion of a team that came together and really put not just the financial survival of the organization, but the well-being of their team, of their staff, and the engagement of the network. So what a great story. But now back to today, because today we will elaborate to many of these themes. So how do we mobilize resources, financial and non-financial? How do we join forces to create really a strong network of partners, investors, civil society? And then, but fundamentally, how do we drive change? How do we make sure that all the equity and the assets that are part of our ecosystem are channeled to drive change and to really transform society? No building back better, but more transforming into an inclusive society. So the plan starts at 10. You should have seen the program on the platform. That is pretty self-explanatory. You have the 3 tracks that I've just introduced. You don't need to pre-register. You can just move from session to session. And I look forward to regrouping at 3 o'clock for the wrap-up and for the announcement of collab awardees. So we have had overwhelming response from the community, illustrating how collaboration can really drive systemic solution and transformation. So don't forget to join back and to see on stage some of our more amazing stories to come. And last but not least, a big shout out to our sponsors. Without them, this would have not been possible. It's been a tough 2 years also for our community, and we are really thankful that the sponsors stayed with us in sharing in-kind and financial resources to make this Impact Month happen. So have fun, continue joining the conversation online, #ImpactMonth, and I look forward to seeing you throughout the day and back again in plenary at 3 o'clock. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic day.